Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man tabi'a sunnatahu ila yawmiddin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome again to another episode of your weekly Islamic discussion show, Live by Islam. And this week we're going to have a discussion with a brother from the UK who accepted Islam and chose, as the show says, and that's what we want to do actually on this show from time to time. We also want to have a guest who has become a Muslim, and he will talk about his story and explain to us, just like the name of the show, why he decided to live by Islam. And today's guest is brother John Fontain. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
So thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation.
Now, as I mentioned to the viewers, from time to time we're going to have people like yourselves. They're going to come on because a lot of people out there sometimes who are maybe born Muslim, who don't have a proper Islamic background, they may start to get doubts. They may start to I don't know, believe, or start to go towards a different way of life, or maybe even a different religion. So it's good sometimes for them to hear the stories of people like ourselves who from the West, who have lived that life that many people to some extent are chasing. But we've obviously become Muslims, so a lot of people they'd be quite surprised in that. So first of all, obviously I mentioned your name, John Fontain, but maybe you can give us a little background about yourself and how did you end up becoming a Muslim?
Yeah, subhanAllah. I was born and raised in Manchester. I know what you're thinking when you hear the city of Manchester. And I was born to an English family. We were raised in the church. My parents were not that religious, but we did attend church. We attended different churches. I remember one of the first churches was like an evangelical church, and then we changed and we started to attend the Church of England. But again, similar beliefs within the church. They was teaching that Jesus is somehow a part of God, or somehow divine, or part of the Trinity. And from a very young age, this didn't fit with my innate belief. It didn't fit with my personal belief, and you find this with a lot of people.
That was partly my thing as well. The whole concept of the Trinity just didn't make sense, didn't fit. Even the explanations, nothing. Like you said, just didn't fit properly. And I mean, I was similar. My father's side, Church of England, Church of England, should I say? And on my mother's side, they were Catholic. So I had a kind of an exposure to both sides. Yeah. But like you said, I just couldn't feel comfortable with the doctrine.
Yeah, and this is not just with Christians. You find many reverts to Islam, who have come from different backgrounds. Buddhism, Sikhism, Hinduism. We have many people come from all different religions, and they have you hear the similar stories. That from a very young age, these concepts just didn't make sense to their innate belief. And this was the same with me, the same with yourself, because as Muslims we know that we're born with a natural belief, an innate belief. In Arabic, the fitrah. Everyone is born with the ability to recognize or understand, the basic understanding of a creator and morality, these type of things.
And that's good to mention, because I believe, that's why you find so many people at some stage, I'm talking specifically for non-Muslims, they will have that kind of time, if not many times, but at least once every now and again, will they kind of sit back and say, it doesn't quite, there is like that natural inclination is pushing itself up to say to them, but the Trinity, or worshipping many different gods. This, it keeps coming to them, and they keep saying to themselves, something's not right here. But they tend to push it away, brush it off, put it on the back burner, like we do.
Yeah, and this is what happened to me. I remember one of the earliest points within the church when I started to think, whoa, this is really not correct. And we had to write a song about God. And my song was Jesus and God. And the pastor changed it to Jesus is God. you know, and this really, like, you know, it's one of the moments in your life, you know, it's probably not the right place to mention it, but you know, when famous people pass away, you know, you remember where you was, what you were doing, you know, but the events in your life, you know, really huge events, what happened throughout your life, you know, what really hit you, and you remember everything about that situation. And I can remember everything about this time. It was such a big point in my life.
So before the break, I kind of forgot where we were, but we were just touching on the point. I can't remember.
Yeah, we were speaking about the fitrah.
Yeah.
You know, that people have
that little thing that
these
keeps popping up.
inclinations. Things in their life don't make sense, and this is the fitrah. You know, and from me being a very young age, you know, I knew Christianity. This does not connect with my innate belief, and I was very active in the church. I would attend church. I used to play the church organ at one point, and subhanAllah, through my teenage years, I took up music. I was very passionate about music. I became a jazz singer, singing in football stadiums, jazz clubs, cruise ships, you know, you name it. It was an interesting time in my life through my teenage years, all the way up to like 20, 21, 22. I was very passionate about music, and it became a good job. I'd make a lot of money. So through my teenage years, I kind of forgot about God. I forgot about religion. You know, these important questions of why are we here? You know, what is the purpose of life? I forgot about them. You know, my fitrah was covered. I was just concentrating on chasing the dunya, trying to make as much money as I could. You know, and this is what many people fall into. You know, all over the world, people are doing the same mistake.
Yeah, and a lot of the time you find that not everybody ends up becoming Muslim, but the reality is a lot of the time what stops them from looking further or following that kind of natural inclination and continuing is, like, I've had discussions with people who said to me, look, I believe in Islam, it's clearly to me it's the right religion, but I've got family, my friends, my social network, my boss, you know, where I live there's no Muslims, it would never work, that kind of thing. And a lot of that is related to either chasing the world or not wanting to give up aspects of that world. I mean, you can understand to some extent, but obviously, as we always say, that if you're in that kind of situation, it's better to become a Muslim who makes mistakes. You don't have to become perfect and then become a Muslim. Yeah. And you don't have to like go and announce it on the streets.
Yes, well, I mean, this is the thing with Islam. It's not like every other religion, and it's not a religion. You know, it's not something you attend once a week. You know, for a few hours on a Sunday or Saturday. You know, it's a whole way of life, and this is, you know, deen in Arabic. You know, it's a whole way of life, and everyone has a deen, whether they like it or not. And music was my deen. You know, this was my way of life. You know, my whole life revolved around music, making money, enjoyment, drinking. You know, doing all sorts of things, and this was my way of life. And so it's not easy to give this up. You know, when all your social circles, your job, everything revolves around that.
Yeah. You kind of reminded me of something because we know in the Quran that Allah talks about that there are those things that people they يحبونهم كحب الله. You know, they love them with that love that should be for Allah. Yeah. But I remember, without mentioning the name of the channel, I remember a very big poster, and you obviously being from the UK probably saw it yourself, where it would say, if football is your religion, come to such and such channel to worship. So that's the reality. I mean, they're not just saying that for fun, because they know there are some people who watch football and so religiously that it becomes their religion. So they're literally saying, if football is your religion, come to such and such channel to worship. So there are those things, you know, for you it was music at the time, for some people it's football, and they could never see themselves worshipping anything else but that.
Well, this is interesting because even though, you know, football is not seen as a religion, it's still, they could understand in their marketing technique that the people still worship.
Funny enough,
You know, and these footballers, these singers, they're idols. You know, you have pop idol and all these different things. You know, they are the idols of our time. You know, people do literally worship them.
no, I heard from a brother who's from Mexico, and I'm not, don't quote me on this. I'm not sure if it's from Mexico or Argentina, but somewhere in South America, they've actually officially registered the football as a religion, and they have a church. Don't ask me how the prayer comes into it. I don't know, but and it's apparently been it's been authorized as a recognized religion, football worship.
Wow. I mean, I have a very close friend of mine from Manchester, and before he was practicing, he was very into football. He's still into football, but he was really into football. You know, he used to travel around the world following his football team around. And one time he was telling me about one particular moment. It was a very important match, you know, like a World Cup, or it's for a cup. And there was one man, he said, if we don't win today, I'm going to go home and basically do something bad, you know. And he meant it, you know. And my friend said he was this person who said this. He's not a Muslim, but you know, this religion was such, this football was such such an important thing for him that they win this particular title, you know, that he was willing to do bad things for it. And it's really sad because people are chasing these different religions, these different deans, different ways of life, whatever it may be, and ultimately it's not going to get you happiness. And you see the people that become successful in these particular religions, whether they become a musician, you know, a very famous musician, or a famous football player, they get to a certain point in their life when they're thinking, what now? You know, what do we do now? When
they retire and they're no longer, they can't play football like they could anymore. A lot of them just kind of sit around at the home and are depressed. I mean, you get a few here and there who get to be like, you know, the Gary Lineker presenting those nice match of the day, but most of them don't, and they go in because, like you said, that's their main thing in life. They tend to go into this.
Yeah, and I was at that point in my life. You know, I was doing quite well in the jazz game, if you like, and I got to the point where I'm thinking, is this it? You know, I'm earning money, I've got the recognition, and it was baseless. There was nothing in it. You know, and then after this, at the age of about 18, 19, I travelled to West Africa, to a place called Senegal and Sierra Leone, and I started to come into contact with Muslims. You know, some good Muslims, some bad Muslims, but one thing that was apparent is that these people, they took their religion seriously. You know, they were praying 5 times a day. You know, that is a huge thing. You know, coming from the West, you know, Christians, they just barely attend church once a week, but 5 times a day, you know, praying. You know, this was real dedication. And I remember at one point, a friend of mine, his grandmother passed away, and he was crying, and I was trying to comfort him, and he wasn't crying because she passed away, you know, because he was so certain, because she's a Muslim, she's going to Jannah, inshallah. But he was crying because he wanted this old lady to make dua that I would become a Muslim. You know, and I thought that was a very nice thing for him to say, and it really encouraged me to start actually looking into Islam. Because previously I had so many misconceptions, you know, with events happening in the world, you know, why were all these things happening, the media attributing it to Islam, and I had so many misconceptions. But it wasn't until I actually started to, you know, use Sheikh Google, you know, and do some research on the internet, look at some videos, do some reading, and actually study and learn what Islam actually is, that you find out that, you know, this is not what Islam teaches. And in fact, that it's actually teaching to believe in the God that I originally believed in.
I recall through my previous part of my previous job was you know, in Dubai within the tourism industry, and we had an exhibition that was an Islamic exhibition that kind of explained Islam in a very nice way, and we had so many people, and we'd invite them in for coffee and tea, and they'd always ask so many questions, especially to see another European who's a Muslim. And so many of them, when they would leave in the visitors guest, the visitor's logbook, they would write things like, "I really had a wrong idea of Islam," or "I had so many misconceptions. Now they've been, so many of those things. So many people have those misconceptions, and they listen to certain things or certain verses out of context, or they see certain crazy people saying that this is Islam and we are the right Muslims and doing all kinds of crazy evil stuff, and they actually believe that. And sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes we even find that possibly people who could be close to home, as people who become Muslim, we may find that some of our family or branches of our family, there's always one or two who have unfortunately fallen for the whole EDL kind of rhetoric, and even some of those people who may actually be educated, but they still, because they've built up this hate for all these lies and misconceptions, you find them, hang on, such and such is his rhetoric is like the EDL, but he's not that kind of guy. But
but the media is so powerful, and when I accepted Islam, my parents were very worried. They thought I'd become like an evil person, some sort of terrorist, because they knew nothing about Islam. But I could understand their misconceptions because I also had them before, But alhamdulillah, over time, they've learnt more about Islam. They've seen that it's not changed me for the worse, but actually made me a better person. And it's just education. People need to do their own research. Just being spoon-fed through the media is dangerous.
So what was the deciding point? Obviously you said you started to read, but you can give us a bit more information about your search, what stages it went through, and then when you actually, how and when and where you actually ended up becoming a Muslim. Because you mentioned you started to look into it when you visited to certain parts of Africa, and that kind of sparked some curiosity.
Yeah, it did. It sparked a lot of interest travelling to Africa, and I was shocked to see black Africans. I thought Muslims were like Arabs or Pakistanis. I thought it was like an Asian religion. But to see black Africans as Muslims was new to me. And when you see, I've travelled to many parts of Africa, and the majority of Africa is Muslim. It's amazing to see, and when you study the history of how Islam entered Africa, it's amazing, subhanAllah. But it really did break down a lot of misconceptions to see Muslims and Christians living peacefully as well, side by side. This was a huge change. So then when I returned to England, I had a Libyan friend. I started to question him about certain parts of Islam. And I was doing more research on YouTube, reading books, watching videos. But I didn't really have anyone to speak to in Manchester. There wasn't. I didn't know anyone to ask about Islam. But then I travelled to Egypt. I had a friend in Egypt, so I went there for a holiday. And already before I travelled to Egypt, I'd already fasted Ramadan. Not the whole Ramadan, but most of Ramadan. I'd already fasted on my own in my parents' house. Nobody knew. I was already trying to pray, trying to put my head on the floor. I didn't know how to pray, but I was trying my best. And I believed that I was a Muslim. It wasn't until I travelled to Egypt and I went to a mosque with my friend, and I asked him, I said, "Can you show me how to pray?" And he said, "No, you're not a Muslim. I can't teach you." And I said, I believe in Allah, I fasted Ramadan. And he said, "No, you have to say the Shahada." I said, "What's the Shahada?" And, he explained, that you have to declare, there's nothing worthy of worship except Allah, and that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the final messenger. And I said, "I believe this, I have no problem." So I took the Shahada in Egypt, and this was like the official time I became a Muslim, nearly 8 years ago. And the feeling when you first take the Shahada, for the first time, you do feel very peaceful, you feel very clean, you do feel like there's something changed in your life. And subhanAllah, it's a great feeling, but obviously it doesn't last forever. You know, after accepting Islam, you've got the reality of having to learn how to pray and all these things, and read the Quran and learn the Arabic, and you know, it's difficult. You know, it can be difficult in the beginning. You know, because it's a life-changing experience. You know, praying 5 times a day. It wasn't easy in the beginning. I'm sure you might have experienced similar things when you accepted Islam.
Yeah, I remember for me it was what was kind of difficult in the sense of at that stage, my friends at that time in school didn't pray 5 times a day. So I found the people that I was kind of looking at or looking for not guidance, for examples, they themselves weren't praying. So I would go and pray myself in the classroom, or when it was the end of school and the school bell would ring and everyone would go to catch the bus, I'd say, let's pray Asr, and they'd say, oh no, we've got to get the bus. So I'd pray by myself. Or let's pray Dhuhr, oh no, we're going to go to the canteen, the best food's going to finish. So that was what I found difficult in the sense of, you know, I didn't have that kind of support because I became Muslim at 14 at school. So the people around me were like, they weren't the best of examples, you know. But then again, to be fair at the same time, they were the reason that I initially looked into Islam, because they would pray sometimes Jummah. But when it came to the 5 daily prayers, that was what I found difficult. Or at the time, I remember I would pray in secret upstairs in my room. So if I'd hear my father coming up the stairs or my grandparents, which obviously is not the right thing, but I'd quickly stop praying and throw my, not that you have to have a prayer mat, because I had a carpet, but I was new and I thought you have to pray on the prayer mat. So I'd throw the prayer mat under the bed and just sit on the bed twiddling my fingers. So that's what I felt difficult, trying to fit it in and not be strange at school and do it without being caught at home in the beginning. But
I remember because I was living with my parents at the time, and my bedroom is above my parents' bedroom. And the floor is a bit creaky, you know, so you're getting up in the middle of the night, well, the morning for Fajr, creaking, you know, going, making wudu, coming back, and you're trying to pray and not make the floor creak, you know, to wake them up. And at this point, they didn't even know I was a Muslim. You know, so there is some challenges. Like you say, it is a new way of life. It's a new deen. It's a new way of life. It's, you know, you do have to let go of some of your, you know, your past. And of course, you know, I had to let go of the music. You know, I had to let go of my singing career. And I didn't desire it. You know, after some time, it was not a problem at all. You know, and, you know, some people have to change what line of work they're involved in. And it's worth it. You know, whatever you give up for the sake of Allah, Allah's going to replace that with something better.
Yeah, I mean, as the hadith says, "Man taraka shay'an lillah, awad Allahu khayran min." You know, whoever leaves something for the sake of Allah, Allah will give him something better than that.
SubhanAllah.
And I was just talking about that today, actually, because there's another, and some of the viewers can look up. There's a brother who used to be a famous rapper with Tupac called Napoleon. And I was just speaking about this earlier at home, actually, because, you know, obviously he had that fame and the life and the riches and the women and the fast cars and all that kind of stuff. And he became Muslim and he left that. And you know, in the rap scene, they always say thug life, you know, the gangster life. It's their famous motto, thug life. And what he's done, mashallah, he's actually, you know, he gave that up, and Allah has provided him with something new. He's gone into business. He's opened a, you know, in the UAE, he's opened a big coffee shop. And from thug life, he's called it mug life, as in the coffee mug. So that, I was actually talking about that with one of my sons earlier, saying, you know, look at this brother, you know, he had all that, what many people wish for, the women, the money, the cars, the private jet, the fame. And, you know, he became Muslim and left that. And just as he, you know, was doing his solo album, what have you, and, you know, he went from thug life to mug life, and now he's doing a successful coffee business.
SubhanAllah. MashaAllah, it's really inspiring to see people, you know, change, you know, so much. And especially for Napoleon, MashaAllah, is a great inspiration. You know, I mean, that period of time when he was very famous was like the peak of the music industry. You know, that's when the music industry made the most amount of money, and, you know, and to give it up, you know. And it shows that this converting to Islam, you know, reverting, whatever you want to call it, coming back to the truth, you know, it has such an impact on people's lives that they're willing to give up everything, you know, because you know, when you find the truth, you know, it doesn't matter. You know, no one's going to stop that, whether it's your job, your family. You know, it becomes the most important thing to you.
That's right. Well, we're just going to, for the viewers, just listen, what was the reaction from your family, from friends, when they actually found out that you had become a Muslim?
Yeah. Well, initially I didn't tell my parents for maybe about a year. I was a bit worried about what they would say, and because I knew they didn't know much about Islam. But when they found out, they were worried. You know, I tried to teach them about Islam, but again, I didn't know much about Islam myself in the beginning. I was still at the early stages. But alhamdulillah, over time, it got better. It was difficult living in a house with non-Muslim parents, you know, of course, with alcohol and pork and these type of things. So I had to move out eventually. And so I moved out and got my own place. But my extended family, you know, I have over 60 family members. I kind of lost touch with them because we wasn't a close family. And the only times we really got to see each other was at like weddings and birthdays and funerals, you know, where they would gather. And of course, you know, I didn't really attend these events. You know, so I kind of lost touch with a lot of them. But I know that some of them are okay with me being Muslim, and some of them are also worried and have misconceptions. Maybe, you know, they'd prefer it if I wasn't a Muslim. You know, and some people, they can't understand why I would give up my old life for Islam. You know, because they seen that I was successful in what I was doing, I was enjoying my life, and they can't understand why you would accept this religion to govern your life, you know, and dictate, you know, certain things like when to pray and things like this. And it's understandable for someone who doesn't understand what Islam is. But I know many reverts, many new Muslims from around the world. You know, some of their parents accept Islam. Some of them lose contact with them. They lose contact with their parents totally. You know, so people have different experiences. Alhamdulillah, my family were okay, and I'm still in contact with my family. Alhamdulillah. But yeah, subhanAllah, it's not an easy thing, and you know, there needs to be more support from the Muslim community, because the Muslim community need to understand that, you know, these new Muslims are their family. You know, that you are the new family of that new Muslim, and you need to take the responsibility, help them, support them, educate them, even financially help them if need be. But since accepting Islam, I was living in Manchester, calling people to Islam, you know, making some YouTube videos, you know, to try to help non-Muslims come to Islam, producing like dawah booklets, things like that. You know, things to try to reach out to the community, you know, to educate them about the true Islam.
Islam, and attracting me to Islam, attracting so many people to Islam, is this only worshipping God alone. So if there are Muslims from whatever denomination they may be, and whatever groups they may be, that they have, because it happens across the board. Maybe the brother had had a particular group in mind, but there are also many groups that, you know, would say that they are mainstream Muslims, who go to graves, who do also many things that go against this worshipping only Allah, Almighty God alone. So, you know, this is important things, and inshallah through this kind of discussion we will continue, you know, to talk about that. But I mean, and obviously again he mentioned it on a very important point, which, you know, we don't have to apologize, because even he, as he said, Theresa May herself said, this isn't Islam. So we don't need to apologize for acts, because we didn't do them, and they're not, Islam didn't do them. Some warped individuals with a not even, you can't even call it an Islamic concept, their own derived concept did these acts. But what we can do, in my opinion, is condone them. Again, not because we have to condone them, because most Muslims condone them. I mean, there's major scholars all over the world who don't get media time, who can condone it. There's courses that are run which bit by bit break down the false arguments of these kind of extremists. But I look at it as clarifying. If this person's done this in the name of Islam, then let's clarify that it's not apologising. It's defending Islam against the lies of these people who are not doing it, are not following Islamic teachings when they do this. So it's a good point that he made, and inshallah, these kind of things will be discussed bit by bit over various shows and topics. Now, what's interesting, because I remember a few years ago now, probably 2 or 3 years, there's an organisation in the UK called Faith Matters, and they do like research. So they're not a Muslim organisation, they're just a general organisation that do research about religion and statistics. And they actually said in this that in the last 10 years, and this is just the people who do it officially that they know about. We know so many people. I didn't do it officially. I did it in a mosque, but I didn't do it. I didn't get registered anywhere. Probably you didn't. But these are people who have done it and probably been registered in a mosque with an official certificate and what have you. Approximately 5,000 British people are becoming Muslim every year in the UK for the last 10 years. And again, we're only going by these statistics. There's probably a lot more. And they said, when they looked at the average person, I mean, this is not downplaying any particular ethnic, that if you're this, it's better than this to be Muslim, but this is the stats, the facts that they provided. And it would also probably go against some of the stereotypes that some people who they think becomes Muslim. So when they checked who were the average people within these 5,000 a year, they happen to be young, educated, successful career women who actually happened to be white as well.
Women.
English. So they were what people look at as being, unfortunately, in this world we live in, to be white and European, in many people's is wow, you know, they're the chosen people, you know, which obviously we know Islamically we're all the same, based upon who's the best in being, in piety is the one who's the best. But for those kind of people, you know, if you look at it from the worldly perspective, the world we live in, these are Western women, highly educated, like university, etc., good career jobs, and women.
Women, yeah.
And the average was, I think, 25 to 30 years old. So makes you think, why would, first of all...
And the important thing is that these people don't have to become a Muslim. You know, they're living in a non-Muslim country. There's no pressure. There's no force at all. You know, they're making that decision for themselves. You know, subhanAllah.
And I mean, if you look at it, I mean, they've got everything that in theory that, you know, for those people who, you know, oh, what's this Islam? And, oh, come on, you know, religion, it's all nonsense. And, you know, they're educated, successful in their careers. If it's one or two, you can try and come out with the typical nonsense. Oh, she must have psychological issues as a child. She must be from a single parent family. But we're talking about 5,000, and the majority of those 5,000 people, we know the majority are going to be, especially usually, if they're educated and successful, they generally speaking would have had a good upbringing and a stable home life to be able to reach that anyway. So that knocks out that argument. So they have the education, they have the money, they have youth behind them, so they have the money to live that exciting life, partying, flying around the world, cruising, all kinds of stuff. Listen to people like you and singing jazz on the cruise. But they have all this, you know, life in front of them.
Yeah.
They live in, you know, what I consider, you know, modern, civilized countries. And they are going to what people are saying, Islam apparently, I mean, obviously, inshallah, we'll have a whole episode on the rights of women and what have you, but Islam apparently, we're taught by many people that it oppresses women. So why on earth would pure English women, for those, and when I say pure English women, I'm addressing this to the pure English racists or Islamophobes. I'm not saying that if you're not white, you're not pure. I'm just saying that's what they say. So why, in this case, with these pure English women, educated, good careers, young, why on earth would they then join such an oppressive religion? And most of them start to cover their head, and you know, and we're not talking, like I said, one or two. Are you gonna say she had this, or she was abused, or she was this? You're talking like thousands upon thousands. So that obviously says something.
And this is research from a non-Muslim organisation.
Yeah, and actually, if you look around the world, the majority of people who become Muslim, and many of the times cover themselves with the hijab, are actually women. It's a known fact. Anyone can go and Google it and put who accepts Islam around the world most, men or women. And if Google's got the correct stats,
Women,
it will tell you by far women. So hang on a second. These aren't women in the middle of nowhere who are chained to a kitchen sink. No, I don't think I've never met anyone that is. But these are not like tribe. And that's an important point to mention, that a lot of these things that we see in the name of Islam, again, when it comes to women and education, this is a tribal thing.
Yeah.
You will go to other parts of that country where they could be Hindu, Christian, Sikh, it could be anything. And because they're in that tribal society, they do all the other horrible things that are forbidden in Islam, like honor killings, and completely forbidding their daughters to learn anything. That's not just Islam, but obviously, I actually read something today. I mean, this is a bit off a topic, but 85%, I think it was, 85% of child marriage under 10-year-olds, so completely not even reached puberty, in the world, 85% of them are actually in the Hindu religion, because India's a very big country, and we don't want to offend anybody, but this was in a newspaper report, that 85% of child marriages, specifically under 10, 85% of the whole of the percentage of all child marriages in the world were connected to follow the Hindu religion. So again, but we'd never imagine that, would we?
No.
We'd imagine, even maybe ourselves as Muslims, because of all the information we're always seeing here and there, that we're the ones who have got the 85% too young child marriages than they should be, even Islamically, at the age or what have you. We would think that we're the ones, but actually it's the other way around. So we sometimes fall into the trap we fall into the trap ourselves.
And this is the same as well with like domestic violence. I mean, I don't have statistics to hand, but when you look at the statistics, in like the West,
I'm just going to have to hold. That's why, that's what attracted you to Islam, and attracted me to Islam, attracted so many people to Islam, is this only worshipping God alone. So if there are Muslims from whatever denomination they may be, and whatever groups they may be, that they have, because it happens across the board. Maybe the brother had had a particular group in mind, but there are also many groups that would say that they are mainstream Muslims, who go to graves, who do also many things that go against this worshipping only Allah, Almighty God alone. So this is important things, and inshallah through this kind of discussion we will continue to talk about that. But I mean, and obviously, again, he mentioned it on a very important point, which, we don't have to apologize, because even he, as he said, Theresa May herself said, this isn't Islam. So we don't need to apologize for acts, because we didn't do them. And they're not, Islam didn't do them. Some warped individuals with you can't even call it an Islamic concept, their own derived concept did these acts. But what we can do, in my opinion, is condone them. Again, not because we have to condone them, because most Muslims condone them. I mean, there's major scholars all over the world who don't get media time, who can condone it. There's courses that are run which bit by bit break down the false arguments of these kind of extremists. But I look at it as clarifying. If this person's done this in the name of Islam, then let's clarify that it's not apologizing, it's defending Islam against the lies of these people who are not doing it, are not following Islamic teachings when they do this. So it's a good point he made, and inshallah these kind of things will be discussed bit by bit over various shows and topics. Now, what's interesting, because I remember a few years ago now, probably 2 or 3 years, there's an organisation in the UK called Faith Matters, and they do like research. So they're not a Muslim organisation, they're just a general organisation that do research about religion and statistics. And they actually said in this that in the last 10 years, and this is just the people who do it officially that they know about. We know so many people. I didn't do it officially. I did it in a mosque, but I didn't do it. I didn't get registered anywhere. Probably you didn't.
Me as well.
But these are people who have done it and probably been registered in a mosque with an official certificate and what have you. Approximately 5,000 British people are becoming Muslim every year in the UK for the last 10 years. And again, we're only going by these statistics. There's probably a lot more. And they said when they look to the average person, I mean, this is not downplaying any particular ethnic, that if you're this is better than this to be Muslim, but this is the stats, the facts that they provided. And it would also probably go against some of the stereotypes that some people who they think becomes Muslim. So when they checked who were the average people within these 5,000 a year, they happen to be young, educated, successful career women who actually happened to be white as well.
Women.
English. So they were what people look at as being, unfortunately, in this world we live in, to be white and European, in many people's is wow, you know, they're the chosen people, you know, which obviously we know Islamically we're all the same, based upon who's the best in being, in piety is the one who's the best. But for those kind of people, you know, if you look at it from the worldly perspective, the world we live in, these are Western women, highly educated, like university, etc., good career jobs, and women.
Women, yeah.
And the average was, I think, 25 to 30 years old. So makes you think, why would, first of all...
And the important thing is that these people don't have to become a Muslim. You know, they're living in a non-Muslim country. There's no pressure. There's no force at all. You know, they're making that decision for themselves. You know, subhanAllah.
And I mean, if you look at it, I mean, they've got everything that in theory that, you know, for those people who, you know, oh, what's this Islam? And, oh, come on, you know, religion, it's all nonsense. And, you know, they're educated, successful in their careers. If it's one or two, you can try and come out with the typical nonsense. Oh, she must have psychological issues as a child. She must be from a single parent family. But we're talking about 5,000, and the majority of those 5,000 people, we know the majority are going to be, especially usually, if they're educated and successful, they generally speaking would have had a good upbringing and a stable home life to be able to reach that anyway. So that knocks out that argument. So they have the education, they have the money, they have youth behind them, so they have the money to live that exciting life, partying, flying around the world, cruising, all kinds of stuff. Listen to people like you on singing jazz on the cruise. But they have all this, you know, life in front of them. Yeah. They live in you know, what I consider to, you know, modern, civilized countries. And they are going to what people are saying, Islam apparently, I mean, obviously, inshallah, we'll have a whole episode on the rights of women and what have you, but Islam apparently, we're taught by many people that it oppresses women. So why on earth would pure English women, for those, and when I say pure English women, I'm addressing this to the pure English racists or Islamophobes. I'm not saying that if you're not white, you're not pure. I'm just saying that's what they say. So why, in this case, with these pure English women, educated, good careers, young, why on earth would they then join such an oppressive religion? And most of them start to cover their head, and you know, and we're not talking, like I said, one or two. Are you gonna say she had this, or she was abused, or she was this? You're talking like thousands upon thousands. So that obviously says something.
And this is research from a non-Muslim organisation.
Yeah, and actually, if you look around the world, the majority of people who become Muslim, and many of the times cover themselves with the hijab, are actually women. It's a known fact. Anyone can go and Google it and put who accepts Islam around the world most, men or women. And if Google's got the correct stats, it will tell you by far women. So hang on a second. These aren't women in the middle of nowhere who are chained to a kitchen sink. No, I don't think I've never met anyone that is. But these are not like tribe. And that's an important point to mention, that a lot of these things that we see in the name of Islam, again, when it comes to women and education, this is a tribal thing. You will go to other parts of that country where they could be Hindu, Christian, Sikh, it could be anything. And because they're in that tribal society, they do all the other horrible things that are forbidden in Islam, like honor killings, and completely forbidding their daughters to learn anything. That's not just Islam, but obviously, I actually read something today. I mean, this is a bit off a topic, but 85%, I think it was, 85% of child marriage under 10-year-olds, so completely not even reached puberty, in the world, 85% of them are actually in the Hindu religion, because India is a very big country, and we don't want to offend anybody, but this was in a newspaper report that 85% of child marriages, specifically under 10, 85% of the whole of the percentage of all child marriages in the world were connected to India, and it happened to be those who follow the Hindu religion. So again, but we'd never imagine that, would we?
No.
We'd imagine, even maybe ourselves as Muslims, because of all the information we're always seeing here and there, that we're the ones who have got the 85% too young child marriages than they should be, even Islamically, at the age or what have you. We would think that we're the ones, but actually it's the other way around. So we sometimes fall into the trap we fall into the trap ourselves.
Yeah. And this is the same as well with like domestic violence. I mean, I don't have statistics to hand, but when you look at the statistics, in like the West,
it's going to have to hold you. We've got to.
People aspire. The saying, the grass is greener on the other side, as they say. People are aspiring to be like people who they don't even understand. The sad thing is when you travel throughout the world, I've travelled much of Asia and Africa, and everyone has this dream of wanting to go to the West, go to Europe and America, as if it's some holy land, some land of light.
Streets are paved with gold.
Yeah, and in reality, people are suffering. Some people are suffering there. Life is not easy there for a lot of people. Some people are living in severe poverty, in the States, even in Europe. And, not everyone has a good education, The amount of old people that die in the winter, through not being able to turn their electricity on or their gas, because of poverty, there's so many people dying, and this is not how people see the West, and even in terms of religion, like you mentioned, communism, and it's the same with secularism, communism, all these atheistic deans, where they basically teaching that there is no creator, therefore no accountability, and this is sad because, a lot of Iranians who I meet in England, a lot of them are actually atheists, where they've come away from religion altogether, that they've stopped believing in a creator, they've stopped practicing any type of religion. It's very sad to see this, and people are not moving towards Christianity, but moving towards atheism, and I've actually authored a book, I've written a book on atheism, I'm going to be publishing very soon, and inshallah, I'd like to come back sometime to actually speak about that.
We want you to have, because
in a lot more depth.
You've also written a book that talks about the reality of the Injil, which is loosely often, you could say that maybe it's the gospel of Jesus, but it's obviously, that's a long discussion, and that will be its episode. But inshallah, we'll have you on more than once, inshallah. So we can have an episode talking about Jesus, peace be upon him, and the revelation sent to him and his true message. And we'll have another one on the book, which I believe is called The God Solution. Yeah,
about atheism. And this is tackling a lot of the doubts, of religious people. Not just Muslims, but it's kind of arguing about the existence of the Creator. And the fact that the existence of the Creator does not need to be proved. It's something that is innate. And so inshallah we can discuss this. But subhanAllah, there's a lot of doubts, that the youth, specifically the youth, are having. And it's from the media, it's from music, it's from Hollywood and Bollywood and all these woods, all these types of media. It's confusing people, because people, again, they're so caught up in their deen, in their way of life, that they're not even thinking about these important questions. And it's not until a calamity happens in their life, maybe their parents die, that they start to think, about these important questions. And we're saying, look, you need to think sooner, because, it's going to be too late one day. People need to think about these important questions.
Well, we've only got a couple of minutes left, but also a very important point is, what you said, and the fact, again, that a lot of what people are exposed to is cultural Islam, where they're
Islam is mixed with the culture, and sometimes the culture goes above, and there can be negative things in any culture.
Yeah.
So what happens is these people grow up thinking that some of these things that may be oppressive, may be not fair to women, maybe not fair in many different aspects, thinking that this is our religion, and maybe they're even told that that's their religion, and they believe it is.
Yeah.
But if they were to go back and check the proper, authentic sources of Islam, they'd say, hang on a second, not only is this the way that I've been treated, the way we've been told, the way that the men look at us as women, this and this and that and that, that's not how the Prophet Muhammad taught us. Or this way I was taught to follow, to pray to this person and to pray to that person, and this person knows the future, and this person is almost like Allah. This is not in the Quran. This is not in the proper hadith of the Prophet Muhammad. Then they can be clear, but it's all mixed up with them, which leads the people into these problems. And we've literally got no time left now. But we'll have you on, inshallah, for some more detailed
Just
discussions.
quickly, the key is, if it doesn't feel right, and you need to check it. You need to go back to the source and actually look at what you're doing religiously and see if that is legislated in the religion.
Well, Jazakallah khair for coming on. We'll have you on again, inshallah. And Jazakallah khair, thank you very much. May Allah reward you all for tuning in again. And please join us and spread the word of this show, inshallah, where we aim to show what it is to live by Islam and the true message of Islam and the beauty of Islam. I'm your host, Ismail Bullock. Same time, inshallah, same place. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.